الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبد رسوله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Mental health. The Prophet ﷺ tells us in the hadith of Imam Muslim, recorded by Imam Muslim, that Shaitan flows in the bloodstream of the son of Adam كمجري الدم, like the flow of blood. And I want to start from this hadith because personally I find a confusion when I look at the stance that we take as a Muslim community when it comes to mental health. You'll find those who will blame the smallest headache on Shaitan. And then you'll find those who will ignore clear signs that definitely Shaitan is involved and send people right away to the secular psychiatrist who is going to prescribe medicine. Now, I want to give the disclaimer. Of course, there is a position for medicine within Islam. There is no doubt about that. That's not what we're saying. It's not what we're saying that scrap all the psychologists, the psychiatrists, and so on. However, we do have to also look at the school of thought that they follow and the philosophy that they uphold as a academic body, because it is usually heavily influenced by the psychoanalytical approach, by the materialistic approach, even though psychology as a science, when it started, in its infancy, in its, let's say, inception, it was dwelt or targeted at the soul. It was psychos logos, the study of the soul. Since then, of course, we have abandoned the soul and the understanding that the soul is important for the materialistic approach or school of thought. And therefore, if the material is dull, if the material is ill, if the material needs to be fixed, therefore another material has to come to correct it, i.e. medicine. If a chemical imbalance is present, therefore the chemical imbalance has to be balanced by adding other chemicals on the other side so that the balance is maintained. In looking at this approach and looking at what's going on around the world, Muslims have to think about seeing psychology, psychiatry, mental health from an Islamic lens, not seeing Islam from a scientific, psychoanalytical, psychiatrist, psychologist lens. We're having it backwards. For the Muslim, we have to understand that first and foremost, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created us. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who knows what's best for us, and that Allah did not fall short, a'udhu billah, or that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam fell short to address the issues that are pertinent to our existence and to our success in this life and the hereafter. So, going back to my main point, we have those who say, everything Shaitan, blame everything on Shaitan. Recently I had a client that was making some choices of their own. Now, I have no doubt that Shaitan was involved in the waswasa and causing certain or pushing towards certain inclinations. This is clear because Shaitan, Allah tells us, he is aduwwun lakum, fattakhiduhu adu. He's an enemy to you, for take him as an enemy. No doubt Shaitan has a role in everything. But you make your own choices, of course, as Shaitan himself would say, فَلَا تَلُمُونِ فَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't blame me, blame yourself. Al-ayah. So some people just blame Shaitan. And then you have some people who have totally forgotten that Shaitan exists, have totally forgotten that Shaitan is not some two-horned being that somehow is just in movies or stories of old, in the deserts or the wadis, the valleys of Mecca or Medina. No, it's a real being that has existence and has a purpose, and that is to misguide humanity. And indeed, when it comes to ailments and mental health issues, we find that Shaitan can have definitely a role in this because he's trying to attack you. He's trying to weaken your body, your mind, your soul, your being to misguide you, to lead you into kufr. And when we look at depression, for example, anxiety, when we look at all these illnesses, mental illnesses, we find that the people who are suffering from them, not all, their iman is going to be affected. Their belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be affected. Their ability to fight back or to commit to some of the ibadat is going to be affected. And that many of them start doubting their faith. Questions such as, why did Allah do this to me? Why is this happening? Why is this? Why is that? Will come to a person's mind. So we need to understand that the Muslim Ummah has to produce Muslim psychologists, psychiatrists, educators, people who understand, who have knowledge of the Sharia, the Muharramat, who have knowledge of the usul of Islam, yet are also trained in the application of the issues that we're dealing with and know how to, I don't want to say combine, because we should never split Islam or deen into, well, this is a science, and this is Islam, and this is usul, and this is fiqh, and this is... The Sahaba used to take Islam as deen. It used to be a life, a lifestyle. A statement that we still use to impress the non-Muslims when we tell them, Islam is not a religion, Islam is a lifestyle. We should not separate. The ulama, the people who are versed in Islam, people of knowledge, people who seek knowledge should have a well-versed, rounded understanding of all issues. I believe an engineer, I believe anyone, whatever field they're in, should not separate Islam and say, this is my field and that's Islam. This is in the mosque and this is in the real world. Let me put Islam on the side for now, because I'll keep it for the 5 daily prayers and for Friday, and let me just get to the real world. No, Islam is the real world, and these issues are part of this same paradigm or the same equation. And I believe that it's counterproductive for us to have this separation between the Islamic paradigm and the Dunyawi paradigm. And this is part of the problem. We need people who believe in Allah, who study the deen, who understand. Not everyone has to be a mufti. Not everyone has to be an alim, like to that level. But everyone has to have knowledge. طالب العلم فريضة على كل مؤمن or Muslim. As وكما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. The seeking knowledge is fard on every Muslim. So the knowledge also expands to, okay, dealing with these issues, medicine, you name it. Even at the time of Prophet ﷺ, people have different knowledges. Abu Bakr didn't say, well, I know the knowledge of lineage, I'm going to keep that for just dunya, and this, I'll pray and fast, and Islam is for the masjid and Nabawi. No, it was together. So we need to train people to have knowledge of Sharia, knowledge of Islam, and it's part of life, and have knowledge of these things. Specifically, what we're dealing with right now, mental health and how to tackle it. Training. Yes, you can take from the dunya what doesn't go against Islam. Yes, it is actually part of Islam because it is life. It is life itself. So please let us motivate. I always appeal to community leaders, to ulama, to imams, to school principals, to parents, to boards, to encourage the ummah, the students, they are responsible for those who are under them, to seek knowledge in these fields and to combine it or to be with Islam as well, right? Because we have now psychiatrists, doctors, and everything, they're on the masjid boards, they have no clue about Islam, they think they know Islam, they want to rule in the name of Islam, yet using principles of science and psychology that's coming from a materialistic perspective or kufr, from that type of philosophy. And at the same time, you have ulama who have knowledge of Islam and so on, who are saying, well, I don't know psychiatry, go and see a psychologist, a psychiatrist. You go to a psychiatrist, John, and they just pump you up with medicine without explaining to you sometimes side effects and so on. So we have a crisis around the world, as according to the statistics given by WHO, World Health Organization, whatever, that there's a huge percentage of youth, for example, age 10 to 19, about 17%, I think it's even higher, that are suffering from some form of mental illness. There was a statistic that was going around during COVID or after COVID, after the lockdown, that about 50% almost of the world have reported some form of mental health issue. Reported, supposedly. I think people usually underreport, but definitely mental health issues are a big challenge for the modern day world, specifically for the ummah. Therefore, we need to take this very seriously and understand where is it coming from. I believe personally, and I'll give my evidence, that this is a modern day weapon of Shaitan, and that the Muslim community cannot afford to say, yeah, just go there, or no, it's everything Shaitan's fault. No, we have to understand, as I prefaced this and I started, that Shaitan is involved in your bloodstream. Yes, there's a great possibility that all mental ailments have some connection to Shaitan. The Shaitan is going to try to weaken the ummah, as mental ailments weaken the ummah, weaken the individual, causes them to stop praying properly, having khushu', having a connection to Allah, leading to questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? So yes, Shaitan is at fault. I can give many evidence, but when you read the Quran, you read the Hadith of the Prophet, you find that Shaitan has sworn war against humanity. Don't think that Shaitan is using sticks and stones to break your bones. He will use whatever modern technique, be it social media, be it mobile phones, whatever it is, he will use that to achieve his purpose. He is very, very determined out of a personal vendetta to prove to Allah that he will misguide humanity, as he has told us. When you look at the hadith, and I know there's different interpretations of that, but I want you to consider this. Your blood flow, your bloodstream, how important it is, your blood health, your connective transport system, how important it is for your just general physical health, mental health. Now, because the body, again, shouldn't be, even though people have made these classifications, shouldn't be split. And okay, you have the spiritual realm, you have the psychological, academic, you have the physical, and so on. No, you're one human being. The split will happen when you die, with your soul and your body, and so on. But right now, we are one human being, and everything is correlated. There's definitely a correlation between everything, the mind, the body, the soul, and so on. So if the body's sick, the spirit or the soul can be sick. If the soul is sick, the mind can be sick. They're just intertwined. So when you look at the hadith again, the blood, the hormones that flow through the blood, the markers, the chemicals, the blood transports everything, the blood-brain barrier. The modern approach is, let us balance this. Let us target the blood. Let us target these hormones. Let us target these neurotransmitters and balance it. Yet they're not understanding that the soul needs to be targeted as well. And this is where we fail. They don't understand that Shaitan has a purpose, because for them, Shaitan doesn't exist. And that's one of the greatest, I would say, tricks that Shaitan has pulled on humanity, to make them almost believe or think that he doesn't exist, or is just some character in some book or some movie or some fairy tale. So Shaitan plays a huge role in people's mental health, specifically when we look at OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and we see its symptoms and how closely it is related to symptoms of waswasa. الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس. We see how people are suffering from waswasa of tahara, which the ulama have talked about, the books of fiqh have talked about. And yes, indeed, doctors speak about today, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD when it comes to cleanliness. But there's OCD when it comes to other things as well. There's HOCD, there's all types of compulsive disorders, intrusive thoughts. Where does this thought come from? Why am I thinking like that? Thoughts about Iman, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, we find a great connection between what's been spoken about from an Islamic paradigm and what we see now today, modern day world talking about when it comes to mental health and these mental ailments. So the Muslims have to understand that we need to go back to our tradition, to the dalil, to the evidence, and to extract cures. The Prophet ﷺ said that Allah did not reveal a disease except that He really revealed the cure. The cure does not necessarily have to mean SSRIs, doesn't have to mean diazepam, doesn't have to mean Prozac, does not have to mean these things necessarily. Those things can come into play at some point, but we're jumping the horse. There's a culture where the smallest, lightest headache or pain necessitates a medical medicine. You go to the 7-Elevens, the corner shops, corner stores, and you are basically saying, okay, I need a Panadol, I need a Tylenol, right away for the smallest thing. We don't have any more resilience. We don't turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with dua. وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. When I get sick, He will cure me. Yes, there's sabab. Yes, there's asbab. Yes, there are things that you have to take. No doubt these things have a place. But I do believe that we've created a culture where we're just jumping the horse straight into medicine, straight into, that's it, I'm depressed. Oh my God, I need this, I need it. Pumping ourselves and ignoring the side effects, not possible side effects, the established side effects, which are going to snowball into another problem. We need to understand that Islam is not inferior to the modern day world, that Islam does have the solution. The Prophet ﷺ, even at that time, had prophetic medicine that is valid till today. People call it alternative medicine. People call it under different names. But in reality, the Prophet ﷺ used it. Some people say that's the medicine at that time. Okay, agreed. But what stops you from using that medicine? What stops you from delaying this need to jump into a pill right away or take a pill just for the slightest thing? There are other alternative ways to do it. There's counseling, there's therapy that can be considered in line with Islam, with the Quran and Sunnah. Yet we jump into medicine right away. And I argue that there's a culture that's been created, and it is definitely linked to huge profits of big pharma companies. And you can do this research yourself. It's not conspiracy theories. This information is accessed and accessible to everyone. So I would argue for the Muslim, first and foremost, to be wary of Shaitan. Be wary that Shaitan can affect them, that OCD can be related to waswasa and shaitanic whispers. And that the Prophet ﷺ, even at that time when he had the access to the medicine of that time, he would definitely turn to ruqya, something that we have ignored or we have believed that only an imam qualified from Iraq or from Morocco will be able to perform, and let him come and pay him a lot of money, and then he won't come for 2-3 months. There's no point. The Prophet ﷺ did ruqya. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged ruqya, taught ruqya. Angel Jibreel alayhi salam came and did ruqya on the Prophet ﷺ when he was ill. But you have to have faith and iman that when Allah says, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, that there is shifa in this Qur'an, that there is healing in this Qur'an, and that it's not only in the materialistic approach, and that we should aim first and foremost to ask Allah to help us because He is a Shafi. Allahumma Rabbin Nas, idhhabil ba's, washfi anta shafi, la shifa illa shifauka, shifa'un la yughadir saqam. So He is a Shafi, He is the one who cures, He is the one who heals. And we should aim to go to Allah first and foremost and take the steps. And if things still don't help, but you should still continue to ruqya. It's not like, okay, I tried ruqya once, twice, that's it, I'm done. No. is that you continue a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months, even actually when you feel better, you should not stop, because Shaitan can trick you and leave and come back and keep bothering you. Continue to read ruqya on yourself, making your adhkar morning and evening, reading the Quran, having intention, be aware, have awareness of the issue. And yes, not feeling better, still things are persisting, definitely you can take this asbab, take the medicine, but later we're jumping into the medicine. We're jumping into medicine right away. And this is counterproductive. I would say this is actually leading to addiction, so many side effects, increasing or blowing up the whole issue of mental health. It's causing more problems when we are jumping steps and going straight for the medicine, because it's a culture of comfort and a culture that doesn't have resilience. The 21st century, we're weak and we love to just take the fast way, the fast-paced drive-by. Just give me it right now. Yeah, don't cook my food. Let me just drive by. Everything's drive-by. There's even drive-by prescriptions, drive-by drugs now. You can just drive through. Sorry, it's a culture. So ruqya is important. Learn self-ruqya. The imam might not be able to come to you. You might not have the money to pay. Learn self-ruqya. Do ruqya yourself. Rely upon Allah. And when you have to, and if you have to, with the right recommendation of someone who, inshallah, understands the deen, then you take the medicine. And there's a plan of how to deal with this medicine. And it's coupled and paralleled with counseling and nasiha and advice. It's not just take the medicine, go. And then there's an exit plan. There's an exit plan on how to get off this medicine, that you do not become dependent on this medicine. Not to mention how many addictions are there out there in today's world that start from these so-called medicine that are meant to make you feel better. So consider as a solution that we as Muslims have to have the ethics of Islam to control our approach to treating mental health. Not just, let's just do it. Okay, come. First meeting, 10, 15 minutes, an assessment, basic assessment. Here you go. In the statistical manual of diagnosis, this is what the symptoms are. Here's the medicine that goes with it. Take care. I'll see you in a month. Next. That's not how it is. There has to be some insaniya, some humanity, some connection to that person, that you feel that they're suffering, and help them. So ruqya, counseling, understanding, support, nasiha, and so on. And if medicine needs to be taken, medicine can be there. The modern day approach to mental health has a lot of issues. It ignores a lot of cultural sensitivities. It ignores spirituality. It ignores the individual. It also ignores the surrounding. It focuses only in general on a specific material problem. And in doing so, it could cause an assessment issue, that you're not actually targeting the problem at its core. Islamically, we look at when it comes to mental health, that it's somehow linked to iman. Now, a lot of people think that if you are challenged when it comes to mental health, that you have low iman, or that you are not a good believer. That's not necessarily all the time, but indeed, if a person has strong iman, he can get over depression, anxiety, and sadness much faster. And Allah knows best. We see the Prophet ﷺ himself sought refuge from sadness and depression. Yaqub alayhi salam had become blind out of sadness and depression, you can say. So definitely these were Anbiya and Rusul, and they were not. You cannot compare the iman to ours. But definitely someone who has stronger iman and works on their iman is someone who will get over these issues much faster. They understand that this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And someone who doesn't, you'll move away from their iman, move away from their practice of Islam. They'll move away from connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and start being very, very desperate for a cure. Give me this, give me that, let me try this, let me drink that, let me take this, as opposed to relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and taking the right steps. One more thing that I believe is very important when it comes to mental health and the challenges that come with it, the depression, anxiety, people are suffering, is our connection to the social aspects of our life in the 21st century, social media, the social paradigm of how we deal with those around us, using screens, the internet, hyperstimulation when it comes to the information that we're inputting into our brains, the movies we watch, the TikToks, the Instagrams. They have so many negative effects on our brain that is unprecedented. We have now adult induced, basically, or let's say screen induced ADHD in adults. Before, onset of ADHD was in children. You would notice that in children. Now we're noticing in adults who've never had an issue. And some research points towards the usage of screens, social media, movies, shorts, TikToks, reels, you name it. It is affecting us. Not to mention the content that we're exposed to and how it weakens our iman and understanding of reality and of life. It's a huge contributor to mental health issues. The destabilization of the human understanding of life, of empathy, the destabilization of the intellect, destabilization of just relationships, social interactions. They are now online. We have lost touch with each other, even though we can communicate so easily. Through this video, I can reach millions of people all over the world, yet communicating with the people close to me is so difficult. So I would definitely say that this is a huge, huge problem. And last but not least, looking at when it comes to assessing the issue and dealing with the issue, knowing from our aqidah, from our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is qadr. It is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sharrihi wa khayrihi min Allah. Whatever it is, whether it's not so good or good, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And when a believer understands that and internalizes that, it does calm you down. One of the ways you can achieve treatment and betterment when it comes to mental health issues is understanding where the issue is coming from and understanding that you're not fully in control. When you're dealing with OCD, for example, one of the steps of cognitive behavior therapy or even ERP, exposure reaction prevention, you find that understanding that this is not fully in your hands and that you're not fully responsible for what you're feeling, even though you have your responsibility, because it can be linked to many things, or what you might have done as a mistake, be it sins, be it wrong choices, be it exposures, and so on. That's beyond the scope of this talk right now, though. You have to understand that this is the Mashiach of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed it to happen for a reason. And whatever was meant to hit you was not going to miss you. And whatever is meant to miss you is not going to hit you. Is not going to hit you. It is qadr. You need to deal with it. You need to work to fix it. When the Prophet ﷺ was being attacked in Mecca, you can say, like, how come Allah didn't help him and this and that? Well, because it was qadr. They had to suffer so they can understand, so they can show, so we can know the difference between right and wrong, the difference between left and right, the difference between good times and bad times. You'll never understand that unless you experience these difficulties. Life is not just about being happy and just living and so on. You will find these difficulties. Allah tells us in the Quran, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَالنَّقْصِ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. We'll test you. I know it's cliche, test, test, test. Everything is a test in life. Indeed, Allah says that yes, it is a test. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. He created life and death to test you which one of you is the best in their behavior and their deeds. So think, qadr, accept the will of Allah, accept it internally, but do something about it. Just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed within his mashia, his allowance, for something to happen, that does not mean that you're not going to take any changes, you're not going to do anything about your life. No, you have to. That's the whole point. Just because the kuffar were attacking the Muslims in Mecca doesn't mean that they didn't do hijrah, that we're just going to sit and do it. We're not going to fight back. No, you have to. That's the whole point. That's the beauty of life. So understand qadr when you're dealing with your mental health issues. Before you trust a doctor, before you trust any process, understand that this was meant by the will of Allah. And the one who has allowed it to happen is also the one who can remove it for you. Put your head on the ground. TTT, therapy through tahajjud. Pray tahajjud. If you want things to change in your life, wake up half an hour before Fajr and pray the night prayer. And on the carpet with your head on the floor, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove it from you. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you, to make you understand why this test has come upon you. Because Allah might want to tell you something. Allah is telling you that He needs something from you, for you to do something. It might be a message for you. It might be a message for you to change something in your life, or that Allah is calling you to do something great for this ummah, but that you're not seeing it. Pay attention. Pray, put your head to the ground and ask Allah to help you and to make it clear to you as what He wants from you. So understand that before you go to the doctor, before you go for the counseling, before you take the SSRIs, understand the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When that is done, when you understand that, accept it, yet still are trying to find the asbab to deal with it, then inshallah you can take the next steps. Don't jump the steps, because look around. Had this been the solution, just prescription, take the medicine, 10, 15 years people are stuck on medicine. They're like vegetables, numb. If this was the solution, then mental health issues would go down. People will be cured. Yet we find people not cured. We find them numb. We find them in a limbo, numbness, just moving, just they're there. It's not a cure. Because if this was the materialistic approach, secular materialistic approach, would have been the cure, the ultimate cure, then we would have noticed definitely a huge improvement. Yet we are noticing the opposite, that more and more people are suffering from mental health issues, and more people are addicted to all types of drugs, legal or illegal. That's just a very fine line between those two. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us understand this. It is a big problem. I do encourage everyone again to understand the challenge that we're faced with when it comes to mental health. And I encourage the community, the Muslim community, the imams, the school principals, leaders, to encourage their following to get involved in learning Islam and having it as a lifestyle, learning about mental health and the treatments from the prophetic way, understanding qadr and aqidah, and understanding how to deal with these things. We need more people in this field. A lot of people are suffering. It might be someone next to you right now. There might be someone watching this right now who is suffering from mental health issues and is considering, a'udhu billah, suicide. They are lacking flow. And I define flow as the ability to perform at your optimal level, to give this dunya and this ummah the best that you have. And we have so much skills, so many abilities, yet we're not able to, because we're stuck due to our depression and anxiety, and we have no flow. So we need this, we need you. Please pay attention. Barakallah fikum. Check the links in the description and support the work. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.